Well, hey guys, good to see you. As you can see, I have a different background because I am doing grandparent duty. My grandson didn't feel well, and at the school that he goes to, you cannot bring your child to school sick. Now, if you have to bring him to school sick, it can't be more than for a couple of hours while you work out to have someone come pick him up. Because while they are willing to isolate him for a couple of hours, they are not trying to do that all day long. So when I got the call this morning, I kind of had to, put some things on hold and get up and get dressed and drive the 45 minutes away. I ain't gonna lie to you, I barely made that time frame, okay? But all of that made me think about some things, and I thought I'd have this conversation with you, and you can tell me how you feel about this. Now, my daughter and my fake son-in-law, because they are not married, whom I love dearly, when it comes to co-parenting, they are both vested 100%. I know my father never invested in me the way my grandson's father invested in him. So, they have all of that worked out. If my grandson is sick or they close schools because of weather, everybody has to take a turn. So really, nobody uses their time for vacations or, just I want to stay home. They both use their time at work in case they have to leave work and go get my grandbaby. So the last two times, my fake son-in-law sucked it up. So this time, it absolutely was my daughter's turn. And she called me. She goes, Mom, I can't. We're supposed to learn a new procedure at work. My daughter is a nurse. And Mom, I just can't. And she goes, and he don't seem like he's sick enough that I could take him to work and just, and take his blow up bed and put it in a spare office. She goes, if he was really sick, and, I could do that while I make, a doctor's appointment. But she goes, he ain't that sick. And he'd be running around the office. She goes, Mom, I can't. She goes, please. And I'm like, okay. But typically, I don't have to do emergency childcare because they have things worked out so very, very well. And, considering I live 45 minutes away and, calling me at the last minute, I can't do nothing in an hour. Everything take me 2 hours, okay? So yeah, but back in my day, well, now let's start with my mother. Back in my mother's day, she was a stay-at-home wife. And so basically, my stepfather didn't do anything around the house other than grass, snow, and vacuuming. And the reason why he vacuumed is because he liked to see straight lines. Obviously, nobody in my family could vacuum straight lines, so he vacuumed. But then as we got older and my mother went out and got a full-time job with the government, he still only did what he did. She still had to either figure out a way to get all the stuff that she did before when she was not working done. And so basically it fell onto us. So then we started doing laundry and preparing dinner and making sure the house was tidy. I mean, because that just was not something he was going to do. And even when I got married, I had it in my head that I wanted to prove that I was going to be a great wife or a great housewife, because I actually was a stay-at-home wife before we even had our daughter. And so, of course, I learned to sew and crochet and knit and change the drapes around and cook and clean, which is why I was excellent at owning a professional home cleaning service, because I knew how it was supposed to be done. Okay. So, I do all of this. And then we have our daughter 3 years into the marriage and things get a little bit more expensive. Finances start to get really tight. At some point I thought, well, okay, maybe I need to get a little job. And so he agreed I would get a little something, maybe a couple hours a day. 1 or 2 days a week, and it could be for grocery money. Basically I was going to make the grocery money, okay? And then it morphed into a full-scale business. I was only doing a couple days a week, a couple hours a day. Everything that I had did before was still my job. When it became a full-scale business with an office as well as staff, it was still, all that stuff was my job, And I guess a couple of years into the business, one day I woke up and I was resentful. I felt like at this point, I'm bringing as much money in as you are. I mean, maybe, we could even things out a little bit. But see, this is the thing about relationships. You have to iron these things out when you first get into them. Basically, when I got into my relationship with my ex, it was understood that I would always handle the house. Now, who knew what things would come down the road, but it was understood I would handle the house. The same way with my mother. It was understood that she would handle the house. Anything else that comes out, well, you got to figure it out. Now, when the second long-term relationship I was in, that started off on totally different footing. We came into the relationship as equals. And so if he felt like cooking, he cooked. If I felt like cooking, I cooked. If nobody felt like cooking, we order in. He would do his laundry, I would do my laundry and my daughter's laundry. Or sometimes she would do her own laundry, and I would do the household laundry. That worked. It absolutely worked. We both had the bills that we paid. We basically we split the rent. He paid the cell phone bill. We split the electric bill, and I paid the cable bill. So everything was worked out. Nobody was resentful or felt like they were indentured servant. But a lot of times, especially in my generation, that is not how you went into, a relationship. Now, whatever else went wrong, it wasn't because we weren't equals. Or maybe it was because I worked a lot. And, I think women are used to men working a lot, but men are not necessarily used to women working a lot. And a prime example is one of my favorite TV shows from the UK called Heartbeat. He is a policeman. She is a doctor. Now, as an authority figure, the townspeople automatically respect him because he's an authority figure. When she became the town doctor, there was an older gentleman who was the doctor before, and everybody gave him his respect and his props. But when he got too old to do it, the torch got passed to her. One, she was a woman, and two, she was young. And so it was really hard for people to give her the same level of respect that they gave the male doctor. When in actuality, because he had experience, but because she had gone through medical school at a later date, she actually knew about a lot of the new techniques that he had only read about in a book. She was actually medically advanced, but he had the prior experience. And so she had hoped the two of them could work together, and then she realized it wasn't possible. But even with her husband, whom she loves totally, and he loves her totally, sometimes if she was at her office, they call it surgery, or sometimes she would go visit patients, and there was no cell phone service. So if she left her office to go to her patients, there's that lag time between when she's available to be reached by phone. And that would irritate him, which really wasn't fair, because she understood this job. But he just, the only time he understood that she might not be available is if she has a patient who is on the verge of death and she needs to get there right away and she doesn't know how long she's going to be there. That is the only time he is accepting of the time when she's not there and not what you might call taking care of home. The rest of the times, he doesn't understand why she couldn't squeeze stuff in. So just all of that, I think I was really surprised that there was a lot about this also on YouTube about the 30 somethings who say that they basically run the entire house and their husband is like having a third kid. Now, I know people say that all the time. Oh, my husband's like another kid. That, I mean, unless you like kids, that would irk me to no end. So here is a woman who has no claim on nothing. I'm going to give you some advice. When you choose your man, it's not about sex. It's not about him looking good. It's not about, what job he has. It's not about how much money he has. It's not about, well, he gonna make my life so easy. I ain't gotta do shit but eat chocolate and watch Oprah. Because things change. I think what you should be looking at is this person really going to be a good partner? Because partners work together. And especially when kids come along, especially if the two of you work, especially if you both have jobs where you also have responsibilities. Because the more responsibilities you have at work, the more that kind of comes home with you. Now, for me, I work at Amazon. I pack some boxes. By the time I get to my truck, I done forgot about my job because I have no responsibilities other than pack boxes. And that's exactly the way I want it. Because I've had my time when I had responsibilities and it fell over into my personal life, So no, are they going to be a good partner and are they going to be able to uphold their end of the partnership? Because otherwise, you're going to be doing it all while he's sitting there playing with the kids. Now, I guess you could say, well, he keeps our kids entertained. So the fuck what? So does television. Does that mean you want to be married to it? I mean, so you see my point? One of my favorite programs is a family of adventurers, and they have 2 kids. One's artistic, one's 3. The one that's artistic is 5 and he can't take care of himself. So, when they go on these long canoe trips, she has to manage all of that, as well as the 3-year-old that's really rambunctious. She plans what they'll eat. She plans on what they need to take. She tries to figure out how much stuff she's going to need for the kids, what kind of clothing the kids are going to need. You see what I'm saying? She has to do all of this. And basically, he plans the trip and carries the canoe. And so one day she had a conversation with us, and she was filming a portion for their YouTube channel. And her eyes kept darting, and finally she just said, look, I'm sorry, but I'm not really sure I can trust him to keep an eye on the kids. And I'm thinking, wow. Even if I felt that way, I probably would have never said it out loud. And I certainly wouldn't have said it on a YouTube channel that's got almost a million subscribers, because that's a bad place to be, because you're going to work your ass off all the time. One of the things I decided in my next life, I would like to have a marriage to last 30 years. I would like to hope that I would just have some instincts from the mistakes I made in this life, because we all have instincts. We don't know where they come from. We just have them. I would like to hope that I would get a set of instincts based on the mistakes I made in this life, so that in my next life, I'll just automatically know, don't do this, don't do that. But I remember I got so resentful and to the point that what I said to myself was, well, damn, Sheila, if you got to do everything, the only thing you don't do is pay the rent, but you do everything else, well, hell, you might as well be single because you can afford to pay the rent too. Now, was that the right move? I mean, for our situation, because in the end, we actually are very good friends now. There's no hard feelings. You know, I married an old school man. And I didn't realize that old school don't really change. So I can't blame him. Maybe I should have been a little bit more conscious of who he was. Because obviously, I didn't really know who he was in his core when we got married. And so I can't blame him for that. I have to blame me. But in the end, I think I did make the right decision to end the marriage. And as I said, as of now, we get along really well. He's the one that helped me move to my new apartment. You know, he has built stuff for me. When I lived in the studio apartment, he came in and built the shelves for me. And I paid him because, nobody works for free. Maybe that's why we get along, because I understand that nobody works for free. Now, he didn't charge me what he normally charges people, but the point is, I wasn't trying to take advantage. But we're really good friends. So I would suggest for people in this age group, in the newer, the Z's and the millennials, I think the millennials are kind of figuring it out. Make sure the person you are marrying is a partner. Because it's not all, I mean, yeah, you still want to be attracted to them. It might take a minute to find someone that, one, you're attracted to, but you also feel you can trust. It might take an extra minute to find those two things, but I guarantee you those two things will be worth it in the long run. So, end of my advice that nobody asked me for, and I'm not qualified to give, but it was just something I was really thinking about. So I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, stay blessed, and thanks for showing up. Bye.